Good afternoon, everyone. This is Salvador Luquina again. How you doing? Hope everything's okay. So I'm here to give you a little information on this article that was written by Joe Coughlin, a founding director of MIT H Lab. So I guess he pretty much studies about retirement and trends and things that people need in their retirement years. So the question here is, how will you spend your retirement? So basically, it says here why it matters. It matters because the freedom of retirement may lead to more worry and not less. Today's retirement comprises multiple decades. It's a phase of life, not a vacation. A lack of structure and guidance plus too many choices can all become overwhelming. Yep, because you have so many things happening in life. But anyway, it says the primary luxury to retirement afford us, maybe the primary luxury of life itself is freedom. Freedom from work, freedom from commuting, freedom to sleep in whenever you're tired, freedom to do whatever you want to do. When most of us are continually working for the weekend, retirement can look something like the weekend to end all weekends. Once we're there, we're free and there's nothing else to worry about. There goes the paradox of choice. But it turns out the opposite might be the case. The freedom of retirement can lead to more worry, not less. The general idea that more freedom equals less happiness is known as the paradox of choice. The paradox of choice is an everyday part of modern life. We experience it when we enter the supermarket, browse Amazon, or any situation when we find ourselves overwhelmed by the number of options that we have in our hand. That's true. Retirement might be the ultimate example of this paradox of choice. With its lack of obligations in regard to career or parenthood, our decades of life after work can begin to look like a vast, undefined landscape. There are few societal guideposts that tell us where to go next. For the most part, we're on our own. A permanent vacation. Even worse, the common guideposts that are out there are not particularly useful. Instead, they tend to only reinforce the popular but misleading idea that retirement is nothing but a really long vacation. The images of this classic retirement are no doubt burned into all our brains. Walks down the beach, bicycle rides up urban promenades, visits with the grandkids, go golfing, golf, and more golf. That's why I put my golf gear here. But retirement in today's era of longevity is a complete phase of life compromising of multiple decades. Not a vacation by any reasonable definition. Even if we could afford to go on vacation for 30 years, I doubt many of us would be able to stand it. Retirement planning entails more than financial planning. During a recent visit to a fairly sleepy upscale community up in Florida, I fell into a conversation with a Uber driver, a man in his 50s. He had recently retired early from an extremely lucrative position as an investment banker. What was he doing driving around for money? He explained, every morning, my wife, my dog, and I take a walk on the beach. Every morning, we see the same faces going up the beach, and then we see the same faces going back down the beach. He drives not for money, but so he can meet new people. A necessity he never thought he had to plan for. His financial outlook could be better, but his social capital, not so much. Successful retirement planning requires us to think seriously about the simplest parts of daily life. What's getting me up in the morning? How am I keeping myself occupied and engaged? Who am I calling up and meeting for lunch? None of these questions will be decided for us. In the far better established phases of life that come before retirement, adolescence, young adulthood, midlife, our social networks and communal obligations are often set in stone before we even come to them. In these periods of our lives, we often lament our lack of freedom to choose. But the other side of having freedom, as retirement teaches us, is ambiguity, decision making, and complexity. Places and people matter. To most of our freedom in retirement, there are two primary things to keep in mind. First and most fundamental is where we live. Many retirees think about making a move when they're no longer tethered to their careers. But whatever we choose to go or stay, we should be sure we have sufficient activities to keep us involved in our communities as we age. An example, what not to do. I once met a couple with plans to move to a lonely seaside house in rural Maine that could only be reached by winding hillside road. What they imagined as idyllic fantasy was really solitary confinement. Second is nurturing our interpersonal relationships and becoming immersed in resilient social structures, whether through family, a church, a volunteer organization, a club centered on a common interest, or background or a part-time job. We should also think hard about the kinds of pursuits that will make us feel like we have room to grow and flourish. That may be through community service and mentoring, physical exercise, learning new skills, or even starting a new career. None of these things will present themselves to us of their own of their own accord. Instead, we have to make the conscious decision to make them part of our journey. That's what the freedom of time is, a journey with no map. Both a gift and a responsibility, both so heavy and so light. So things to consider in retirement years is make the most of your retirement freedom by envisioning what you want your new life to be, because you will have like a new life. You're not going to be with coworkers, you're not going to be working anymore. It's a new life. Strategically consider where you'll live in retirement based on the activities you want to do, because you want to keep busy. You want to keep like walks, run, go to the gym, meet people, like he said. Create a long-term plan for how you'll stay connected with your community. So it's important that in retirement years, we envision vacations, we envision to have a lot of freedom for time. But what are we going to do with that time? How we want to spend our time? How we want to keep growing our minds, our own personal development still? Because personal development, it's an ongoing issue. It's an ongoing deal as years go by. So you need to really consider those options, like it says, those life options. And it's important to keep that in mind as we go through our years of retirement. So I hope this helps you out. Another tip, I'm always giving you tips on, retirement things or any of that nature. Again, if you want to talk to me personally, my number, my email. You can email me, you can call me, and I'll be here to talk to you and listen to you. Thank you very much. This is Salvador looking again. Till next time. Take care. Bye-bye.